1st of April, I think it's safe to say now, summer is really here now, and as the title says, Premier League football returns, so we're coming into the last straight now of the Premier League season. I think there's a lot of games that I believe that are going to be, I think it's going to be a battle to the top four. And I think in terms of the league title, yeah, Liverpool for me, Liverpool obviously clearly in the driving seat. I don't see, I think the nearest challenges to them would probably be Arsenal, but I don't see Arsenal clawing them back. And as I said, my predictions, I think there's a lot of football still to be played, but I do believe that I do believe Arsenal could get pipped to second place. I do still believe that, Man City have got a favourable run of fixtures that they can put some teams away. I know they've lost Erling Haaland. He's obviously, he's out to the end of the season now. So he'll be coming back at the FIFA World Club Championship at the end of the season. And I think it's a good opportunity now for Omar Marmoush, who come on and got the winner against Bournemouth, to get more game time now. And I think the fact that Omar Marmoush will be playing now, I think that's gonna create a bit more for Man City's attack. So I think he's more mobile. I say mobile. I think he's more involved, should I say, in the play than what Haaland is. So I think City will create more chances because of that. So obviously their next game's against Leicester, which is tomorrow. And for me, that'll be a definite 3 points, I believe, because as I said, I think Leicester are going down. But tomorrow we'll speak a bit more on that. So as I said, yeah, I think this league race now, this league title race, for me, it's Liverpool's to lose. And I believe that Arsenal at the moment are their nearest challengers, but don't count out Nottingham Forest. But I do believe Man City will come on strong now to the end of the season. I think they've got the FA Cup semi-final to look forward to at Wembley, and I think that might give them a bit more confidence. I know losing obviously their top goal scorer, but they've got other options there now. And what I would say, yeah, I think it's going to be a sprint finish to the top four places. And as I said, I think Liverpool will definitely secure that title. I think if Liverpool was to lose the title from here, that would be catastrophic for them. As I said, they lost the Carabao Cup final to Newcastle. They're not in the FA Cup, beaten by Plymouth, out of the Champions League. And obviously now they just got the league title to look forward to. And, you know what I mean? Everything started off so promising for Liverpool. But, yeah, it looks like one trophy is up for grabs for them so to the end of the season. Big up Gucci. No picture, Gucci. Okay. So yeah, I think that in terms of the games today, so there's 3 games today. I think United's game is the latest one at 8 o'clock. And as I said, I've spoken on United and Forest game yesterday, so I won't go too much into that. But the other games today are Arsenal and Fulham. So again, I think Arsenal notoriously have a bit of a tough time against Fulham. Fulham obviously got beat 3-0 by Palace in the FA Cup. Convincing 3-0 result. Big up Skulls YFN. Yeah, big up for coming on. So I think Arsenal will be obviously encouraged by the news that Bukayo Saka's back in the squad now, obviously training. For me, I think I can see why they've rushed Saka back, because they've got the Champions League game against Real Madrid, the 2 legs against them. Even though I do believe Saka or not, Real Madrid will still go through. As I said, in Champions League, Real Madrid's heritage, always comes through in the end. And I don't believe Arsenal overcome them over 2 legs. In a one-off game, I think they'll have more of a chance. But for me, I definitely think that Real Madrid will get it done. And obviously the league season, Arsenal still feel they've got a chance to try and win the league. And obviously bring in Saka, who's arguably their most important attacking player in terms of numbers. You know, I can see why they brought him back. The only thing I would say is that having a hamstring injury, you know, rushing someone back where they could have realistically given him a bit longer of a rest, you know, and let him get fit for pre-season, I would say, would have been better. And it's gonna obviously we're gonna see now, because as I said, if Arteta does rush him back sooner than expected and he picks up another injury, you know, everyone's gonna be looking at Arteta, and again, that could be a thing where, you know, you're ruining someone's career because, you know, you haven't really provided the adequate solutions in the squad to cover someone like Saka, you know. And again, they've still got Ethan Nwaneri, who I believe is a better footballer than Bukayo Saka. Obviously, Saka's a lot more experienced, you know, and in terms of numbers, obviously he's ahead. But as a pure footballer, for me, Ethan Nwaneri is better. So they could have give him a bit more game time. But again, if Arsenal wasn't in the Champions League quarterfinals, and if obviously if the league title was over and done with, I don't believe they rushed Saka back. I think they would have given him a longer time to rest. But I think Arteta's looking at it as needs must, and for his sake, he better hope that Saka doesn't pick up an injury. You know, so but again, they'll be in a confident mood that Saka's now back training and will be in the squad for the game against Fulham today. How I see this game going, you know, as I said, Fulham will obviously want to be making up for the loss against Palace in the FA Cup. And I think the way that Fulham set up their team, and I expect them to be playing this today, I think I would have said they would have gone three at the back. But I think the fact that Arsenal haven't got a striker, they might think to go with four at the back. I think two centre backs and then the fullbacks. You know, I could be wrong, but I think that because Mikel Merino will be the striker, and they're not going to be worried about Marino's pace in behind. You know, again, obviously Martinelli or Trossard might be playing on the left hand side, and on the right hand side, Nwaneri might play, or they might play Trossard and Martinelli. You never know. But I think the fact that they haven't got a recognised striker up there, I think Fulham might go to four at the back, and I think their four at the back will be obviously in goal will be their Arsenal's old keeper Bernd Leno. Right back will be Timothy Castagna. Left back, their captain Anthony Robinson, and I think the two centre backs they're gonna have Calvin Bassey, left-footed centre back, and Joachim Anderson. I think they'll play, and in the midfield, because I think what they do, they either play the 10 or play three at the back, and I think the two in midfield, they're gonna play Sanderberg and Sasa Lukic, and then I think the 10. I wonder if they're going to play Emil Smith Rowe against his former club. You know, I think it'd be Smith Rowe or Andreas Pereira, I think, in the 10. And Smith Rowe hasn't been starting lately, so I don't know if it's going to be him or Pereira, but I think one of them two will start in the 10. And then on the right, I think they're going to play. I think it's weird because what Marco Silva normally does, I think with Adama Traore's pace, he either starts Traore. I think when they're at home, I think Traore starts more the games at home, but away from home, because of Traore's pace later in the game and playing a bit more on the counter attack, I think that Silva might want to use that. So he might not start Adama Traore. I think he'll start. I think he'll start Iwobi on the left, and on the right, who are their wide players? They got because I think Harry Wilson's injured. Adama Traore, Alex Iwobi. I think they got. I swear there's another wide player. Guys, who plays on the wings for Fulham? They got Traore, Iwobi, and who's the other one? Wilson's injured. And then they got someone else. Well, the thing is, I think they could play Traore on the right, Iwobi on the left, and then up front, Raul Jimenez, I would see starting the game, or they got Muniz. I don't think they'll go two up top. They won't do that. So I think either one of them will start. I think Raul Jimenez will probably start the game. But as I said, big up Legend FC JD. What card do you have? A very nice one, but thanks for asking. Guys, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Big up Paul Goff. So Paul Goff says Smith Rowe at the moment. Yeah, I think Smith Rowe might start, but I'm trying to think of their because I think they'll play the number 10, and if they play three at the back, then I think Traore and Iwobi probably start the game. But I think if they play with a number 10, it depends if he wants to use Adama Traore's pace later on in the game, when the legs are tired. So yeah, it's interesting. But I think Smith Rowe or Pereira definitely start this game. Because I think that Fulham will play with a number 10 and not play three at the back, because Arsenal haven't got a recognised striker, and I think that'll be the best way for them to go, to give Arsenal something to think about. So yeah, I think Smith Rowe or Pereira definitely. And I think if Fulham play that team and keep it tight at the back, I think the longer the game goes on, I think Fulham will be confident of getting a result. But I think that with Arsenal, how Arsenal are going to line up, I think it's pretty obvious what they're going to do. You're going to have David Raya in goal, the back four of Lewis Skelly at left back, Yuri and Timber right back, and then obviously Saliba Gabriel. And in the midfield, it'll be Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, and Martin Odegaard in the playing more in the 10, but obviously a bit more deeper than the other two. Oh, sorry, a bit more advanced, should I say, than the other two. And in the front three will be interesting, because I don't think Saka's not going to start, but I think Saka will come on at, towards the end of the second half, I believe. But I think he's going to start. I think Mikel Merino definitely starts as their striker, and then either side you've got a choice of Trossard, Martinelli, and Wanyeri. For me, if I'm them, I start Wanyeri on the right, and then possibly Trossard on the left. But then they might want Martinelli's pace on the left-hand side. So yeah, they've got options there. But I do believe, Fulham can get at least a draw. And obviously it'll be a good way for them to kind of come back from the 3-0 loss against Palace, And obviously, again, Fulham are going for the European places. So they're going to want to still obviously give a good account of themselves as well. And so if I'm going to say between Arsenal and Fulham, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Yeah, I think it might be a 1-1 draw, Arsenal-Fulham, at the Emirates, That's the way I see it going. But again, I think a lot of it depends on how Fulham set up, because I think if Fulham play with 3 centre-backs against Mikel Merino up there, they're going to lose something in that midfield, I believe, and the creativity won't be coming, I don't think, because they'll be relying on the counter-attack. And then if that's the case, I can see Adama Traore starting to play on the counter-attack for Raul Jimenez to hold it up. And then obviously Iwobi is very industrious on the left-hand side. And then they'll use Adama Traore's pace in the wide areas. So I can see that happening. But if they play with a number 10, I see them causing Arsenal problems. Yeah, and I believe. And obviously, I can't remember who Arsenal got on the weekend, but obviously next week is the Champions League, Real Madrid, and as I said, they'll be focusing their sights on that. I think if you was to ask any Arsenal fan, what would they prefer, the Champions League or the league? I think they'll be saying the league, because obviously Champions League is the luck of the draw. The draw more or less wins you the Champions League in a sense, because if you get a favourable draw against teams that you should be beating, then that's how it kind of works. But I think the fact that they've been drawn against Real Madrid, I think they would much prefer to win the league than the Champions League. But again, I could be wrong. But I think the fact they haven't won the league title in how long now? I think it's coming up to what? almost 20 years, I would say. Yeah, probably about 20 years. They'll be wanting to obviously overcome that. But for me, I don't see it happening this season for sure. So we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Arsenal Fulham for me, guys. 1-1, 1-1 at the Emirates tonight. Next game, obviously Wolves against West Ham. Obviously Matthias Cunha's come out stating that he wants to obviously move to a bigger team to help win trophies, which again isn't a surprise, you know. And for me, as I said yesterday, for me, Man United need to be targeting Cunha or Eze as their two key signings for me for that left 10 role. I think those two are the ideal two. You know, again, my preference is a Florian Wirtz, but obviously United not getting Florian Wirtz, so obviously you've got to be a bit more realistic. But I think from what's out there at the moment, that is achievable for United to sign. I would say, Eze or Matthias Cunha. And again, as I mentioned, it's not really a surprise that Cunha wants to move on, you know, because you can clearly see from his ability, you know, that he is better than Wolves. You know, I think what I would say for Cunha coming out and doing that now, there's obviously meant to be a rumoured release clause there, I think of 60 million. So for me, he didn't really need to come out and say that he wants to move on, because if anyone just activates the release clause, you're going to get the player, and there's nothing that the club can do. Yeah, big up you, Shabazz, man. Big up for coming on. As I said, guys, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to my channel. I'm on my way to 1K, so I think I'm about 80 short of 1K. So yeah, big up if you enjoyed the stream. As I said, make sure you check out my other content, and make sure you smash that like button to help reach more people. And again, make sure you subscribe to my channel. So yeah, just going back to Cunha. I think that obviously I think he's still got. He might still have one more game ban. I think I can't remember. I think he's got 1 or 2 game ban left, and then he's obviously back playing. But he's going to be sought after in the summer, you know. And I think the release clause of 60 million, I think for a player of his quality, you know, of his age as well, I think is reasonable. Whether Man United activate that, I don't know. Again, there's been interest from Arsenal, and what I would say is that with Arsenal and Cunha, I could see that being a possibility. It just depends whether Arsenal are gonna part with the money. And the reason I say that is because if you look at what Arteta does, Arteta has shown really that he doesn't really want to buy a striker, and that's to the detriment of the team, because it's very clear to see that Arsenal need a proper goal scorer in their team. You know, even though I don't think it gets them over the line, but it makes them a bit more potent, I would say. But I think with Cunha, he might like Cunha because Cunha can play as a in Arsenal's system. He can play as a wide left player. He can play as a 10, and he can play as a striker. So he's very multifunctional of a player. He's a multifunctional player, which is what Arteta likes in a way. But I think that and again, they could part with 60 million based on that, because you've got a player there that can cover 3 positions. But I think Arsenal need a proper number 9, rather than someone that is probably multifunctional, because they've got a few players that can do that already in their team. You know, so for me, I can see them looking at Acuna, but again, I don't see them spending, let's say, 120 million on Acuna and a striker. If they was to get Acuna and a striker, Arsenal, I will comfortably say, with what they've got already, you're looking at a team that should win the title next season, just based on that. So if they was to part with 120 million and get Cunha and a striker, someone that's going to get them goals, you're looking at the title favourites from what they've got already. That's what I would say, you know. And for me, they ain't going to do that. So yeah, I can see them parting with 60 million on a player, but I don't know if it's going to be what if I'm not sure if it's going to be someone that they actually need, and we'll have to wait and see, man. But yeah, I do think, yeah, Cunha is going to be a massive topic in the summer. I think not just United and Arsenal that I'd be interested. I think there'll be other teams abroad as well. If I look around the Premiership, what teams need a Cunha that are in the top four, top six? If I'm Liverpool, I'd look at Acuna, because again, Liverpool like multifunctional front players. They've got that in Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Jota. Obviously Darwin Núñez. I think Cunha could fit into that as well. Play from the left or play as a false nine or as a striker. Because let's not forget, Cunha's actually a striker, but he's got so much ability to his game. I think he's more useful playing as like a number 10, so he can get on the ball and dictate and create things. And I think if Liverpool was to go in for him, I think it would be a case of them moving on a Darwin Núñez. I think if they don't move on Darwin Núñez, then I'm not sure if they go for him. But in the same sense as well, I think if Salah in the front area was to leave, I think them bringing in a Cunha is a must. I know Cunha's not going to directly replace Salah on that side, but having someone that is a maverick, and that can get goals, that's what Liverpool would probably need. But whether Slot wants to target that or not, I'm not too sure. But so I think Liverpool could do with him. Again, I've mentioned Arsenal can. Nottingham Forest have actually put in a bid for him already, actually, and I can see why Nottingham Forest would want him, because he takes their level of quality up, and they can offer him Champions League as well if they hang around and stay in them positions, and I can see why they would want him. He's someone as well that his personality, would fit in with their team as well. So it'd be interesting to see if Nottingham Forest actually come back in for him, and I think if they do, that would be a good signing. And I think they might have put in a 50 or 60 million bid already in the January window, which obviously was rejected. But for me, yeah, I think that he's going to be sought after. Tottenham could do well to get him as well. Chelsea, I would say no, because Chelsea for me have a lot of not similar, but players that can play in the wide areas, and I think Chelsea just need an actual goal scorer that can convert their chances, that the amount of chances that they create. And I think as good as Cunha is, I think there's not a necessity for his position at the moment. I think they just need a proper number 9. But again, if Chelsea was to go in for him, you can see the logic behind it. But I think they'll be targeting other players. Who else is there? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think now. Who else is in the top? So yeah, I would say any of the top 6 could do with Matthias Cunha. If I'm looking at Barcelona and Real Madrid, could he play for Barcelona? I believe he can. And again, I would actually say they would do well, Barcelona, to bring him in as the replacement for Lewandowski. Because I look around, and again, Cunha is an actual striker. Obviously, this guy used to play for Atletico Madrid. He's more of a 10 now. But I think with Barcelona, the way Barcelona play, they could use him as like a false 9, and get pace in behind. He wouldn't be the ideal solution for Barcelona, because I think that Barcelona, when they've got the likes of Lamine Yamal's creativity, they need an actual number 9 that's a goal scorer like a Lewandowski. But you're not going to get Lewandowski again, because these kind of players are starting to die out now. And but again, Cunha would be a good option. Real Madrid, I don't see Real Madrid, if I'm honest with you. Big up Ali Budak. But I don't see Real Madrid, because Real Madrid's a weird one, because, has he got the quality to play for Real Madrid? 100%. But I don't see there being a place for him in with the players they've got already in their squad that have cost a lot of money. So yeah, if I look at that, I don't see Real Madrid. And then you're looking in Germany. Um, Again, Bayern Munich. I could see him at Bayern Munich, funny enough, because obviously Bayern Munich play with three in behind Harry Kane. So Musiala plays in the 10, and Elise plays on the right, and then you got Kingsley Coman from the left. Nabry for me is going to be moved on. Oh yeah, Leroy Sané as well. I think Nabry and Sané could be moved on to bring in younger players, probably, or fresh players. And the same with Coman, because Coman's been there for years and Coman's won so many trophies there. But I think obviously Musiala's signed a new contract, so he'll be in the 10. At least he'll be in the right. So I think that left side could be open, and he could play there. You know, so I could see a Bayern Munich. I could see. I mean, Bayer Leverkusen would be a great move for him, to be honest with you, because I think the way that Bayer Leverkusen play, they play, obviously their strikers are Victor Boniface, Patrick Schick, and they play Nathan Teller, obviously ex Southampton, up there as well. But I think Cunha, obviously Florian Wirtz is their main creator. I don't think. Well, if Wirtz if Wirtz was to go, then obviously there'll be an opening at Bayer Leverkusen, and again he'll be playing Champions League football. So that could be an opportunity for Cunha. But I think Cunha can play for any one of those teams and not look out of place. But it just depends who's willing to put the money down. But yeah, he'll be important. He'll be an important player for Wolves when he comes back to keep them relatively comfortable. And in the same sense, if he does move on, he's going to be a big miss for them. And then West Ham. West Ham obviously away from home against Wolves. Again, West Ham have had a poor season, really. I know Graham Potter has picked them up recently. They've got a couple of players in their team that I would love United to sign, but again, I don't think United are looking at them, if I'm honest. And even if they were, I think you're looking at 60 million again, maybe slightly a bit more. For me, Paqueta and Mohamed Kudus would be great signings, should I say, for United. Kudus on that right hand side in Man United's team would be a massive threat. So I could see Kudus as a right wing back or as a right 10. In Man United's system, and having him and Ahmad on that side. I would prefer to see Ahmad in the right 10 and seeing Kudus as a right wing back. Kudus is pace and power. Because again, these wing back roles, they're more wingers. You know what I mean? I think the traditional wing back that we've always seen have been more occupied by defenders. But I think with the wing back role that Kudus would occupy if he was to come to United, you're looking at wingers. You got him and Dorgu on either side. That's just pure pace and power to dominate the flanks, which will allow your 10s to come inside, and just create. So he would be a great signing for United, Mohamed Kudus. But again, there's been no reports of United looking at him. But yeah, I think him and Paqueta, whether they move on in the summer, I don't know, because Paqueta obviously had this ban over his head, and I think the interesting thing is that West Ham will be asking for a lot of money for both players, because they're two of their best players, and I think if a team was to offer 60 million, that's a starting point, and it would give West Ham obviously things to think about. But whether that happens or not, I don't know, but they're two players for me, again, that should be playing for teams that are in the top 6 easily, top 6, top 4. So yeah, whether a team's coming for them remains to be seen. But I do think obviously West Ham's form as of late has been a lot better than it was. I'm gonna go for a draw this game as well. I think this game will be I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw. Because obviously Cunha's not playing. You know, obviously West Ham on the counter attack with Kudus, Bowen, and obviously Paqueta's ability will cause Wolves problems. But I think Wolves being at home, I think they are going to concede, but I can see them scoring a couple of goals as well. But yeah, I think I'm going for a draw, West Ham and Wolves. But yeah, I think again, West Ham. I think if West Ham actually win their game, I can't remember what the league table is saying, guys. If anyone knows the league table, the bottom half in terms of Wolves and West Ham, I think Wolves might be a place below West Ham if I remember right. But if West Ham was to win, then they close the gap, obviously, on Man United, I believe. Yeah, big up Miradi Salimi, big up. And obviously the Forest Man United game, 8 o'clock tonight. I won't touch too much on it because I done it yesterday. But for me, I said I can see Forest winning this 2-1. I'm going to slightly change because I've obviously seen some of the team news, and I think Gibbs White's not playing. You know, Gibbs White and Wood are both not playing, who are their top goal scorer and most creative player. So that could change things for them. You know, they have got a Wanyi who can play as a striker, Nigerian striker. But I don't know who will play in their 10. You know, they could actually pack their midfield and play, well, I say pack their midfield, play 3 in midfield, you know, 3 workhorses in there. So they got options, but I don't know now because especially Gibbs White not playing, who is their creator, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I said 2-1 Forest. It's going to be tough because United obviously have got players back now. As I said, Harry Maguire, I think Harry Maguire starts because of Chris Wood. The fact that Chris Wood's not playing, I wonder if Amorim is just going to keep the back 3 how it was in terms of Mazraoui, De Ligt. Obviously, Heaven's been out injured even though he's back in training. But I think you're looking at Lenny Yoro or Harry Maguire starts, or you got Victor Lindelof. But I don't know if he plays with Lindelof. Yeah, I think Chris Wood not playing, but a Wanyi might play. Yeah, I think if a Wanyi plays, which I'm expecting him to play because he's their only other striker, I think that Maguire plays purely because of the aerial ability, and then he plays De Ligt from the right, Mazraoui from the left as a 3 at the back. So I can see that happening. Do you know what? I'm gonna stick. I'm gonna say Forest 2-1 because I think they're at home. You know, they're in a confident mood. They're going for Champions League places, FA Cup semi-final. So I believe that Forest might nick this 2-1. Or even that, I can even see it being a 1-0 because defensively, Forest are very good. They got, as I said to you the other day, they've got arguably the 3rd best centre-back pairing in the league. And there's a reason why all 3 teams at top of the league are in the top 3. You know, you got Liverpool's got Van Dijk and Konate, Arsenal Saliba, Gabriel, and Forest have got Milenkovic and Murillo. So, you know what I mean? I think their defense is gonna keep them in the game for sure, and help them to try and get a result. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go 1-0 Forest or 2-1 Forest. I don't see United winning this game. You know, I could be wrong. In terms of quality, United have more quality than Forest, but I don't know. I think I'm not too sure. I think Forest might nick it, to be fair. So yeah, that's my prediction. So I think Arsenal and Fulham, I can see it being a 1-1 draw. Wolves West Ham, I've gone for a 2-2 draw. Forest and Man United, I've gone for a Forest 1-0 or a 2-1 win. That's what I think. Big up, guys, for coming on. Before we wrap, obviously, we're going to talk about, there's been, obviously, some noise today about Victor Gyökeres. For me, personally, I don't want Gyökeres at United. And I don't think, as well, what Man United shouldn't be doing, they shouldn't be signing players for the manager, players that the manager has worked with, because I think United have done that too much in the past. You know, you look at the likes of Mourinho, you know, they've done that for, even though Mourinho didn't get every player he wanted, but he still got some players. Big up AV, Amit FF. Yeah, big up for coming on. Guys, I will go through some of your chats after. So make sure you put some comments in the chat. I say make sure you smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So I don't think Man United should be signing players that the manager used to work with anymore. You know, as I said, Mourinho had it, Ten Hag had it, and I think for me now, United going into a I would say like a new era. You know, obviously stadium has been announced. You know, obviously Ineos, all these other things as well. I think United need to make more club signings rather than players that the manager used to work with, because there's no doubt in that Gyökeres, that what's his name, that Amrin would like Gyökeres, but I don't think Gyökeres is the type of striker that United need. I would say, I know he's got a very good record in Portugal. Obviously, played formerly of Coventry as well. But I don't see it. I think for me, I would prefer to see Joshua Zirkzee just playing in his position. You know, Rasmus Højlund being moved on, and then you've got Cheeto there as well. So I think if United was to go and get an Osman, for instance, because I think Osman would provide a a bit of a different than what Gyökeres would, in terms of the physical strength, the aerial strength as well, and I think Osman might possibly cost less as well than Gyökeres. I think and as I said, I think Man United to be making more club signings. Osman isn't my preferred choice, neither is Gyökeres, but the caliber of strikers that are out there now ain't there. So again, it's more of a case of just scraping the barrel with players. So I think that with Gyökeres, yeah, I don't want United to sign him, and I don't want it. I don't want Amorim to be getting his players. I think Man United need to be making club signings, and then if you're a good coach, you coach these players into a system that you want to play. And saying that as well, for me, as I've already mentioned, Amorim's not at the woodworks yet, because for me, Amorim's mission this season is to win the Europa League. Like, at this moment in time now, the league is irrelevant if he wins the Europa. Because if he wins Europa, then as poor as the league season has been, he'll get a pass. You know what I mean? Purely because getting him into Champions League, even though United won't be doing nothing in the Champions League, but it's money into the club. So I would say, irrelevant of the league finish, Champions League football, winning the Europa is a must. And if he doesn't win the Europa League and United finish, let's say 16th, 17th, I would say he's failed. And I would say if Ineos are serious, they'll be looking at his position in the summer. That's what I would say, because I think United have to be ruthless like that. We've all heard obviously he hasn't got his players, etc. But he was brought in because he was a very good coach. And to be honest with you, if Man United don't win Europa and finish 16th, 17th in the league, then that's unacceptable. So what I would say is making club signings. Making club signings is more crucial for me than making signings for the player, for the manager. So I think United shouldn't be signing players that the manager used to coach, in my opinion. A club signing for me, again, is Liam Delap. I like. There's been rumours about Liam Delap, and I can understand. You got Cheeto, who's what, 17. Xerxes 23, I think. Yeah, 23. Højlund's 22. And the lap obviously is 22 as well. So I think having all strikers at that similar age, you would need someone that's a bit more experienced. But for me, Liam Delap, if Højlund was to be moved on and then Liam Delap comes in, I haven't got a problem with that, because I do think Delap's a better player. Well, I don't think Delap is a better player than Højlund. So I definitely see the lap noise, and obviously the lap formerly of Man City, and Jason Wilcox obviously used to manage him as well in the youth. So I can definitely see that link there. But for me, it's important that Højlund does get moved on. If Højlund gets moved on, the lap comes in, I think that's a great bit of business, because you're getting an English striker as well. that is young, hungry, and is a better player, and then you go and get possibly well, you'll have the Lap, Xerxes, and Cheeto. And personally, I wouldn't be that unhappy with that front three because I don't buy into this. Xerxes not a 9. I think the way Amarim the way this system is, Amarim can have them that opinion, but Xerxes for me will be playing better as a 9 than Hoyland would. It's only because Xerxes doesn't threaten him behind as much as what Hoyland does, but that's not saying much because Hoyland doesn't really offer nothing anyway. So I do think that having a Xerxes back as a number 9, having a Delap and having Cheeto as well. I think that 3 I wouldn't be that unimpressed. I wouldn't be that concerned with, if I'm honest. But if United could get rid of Hoyland and then get in a Osman, let's say, then yeah, I will understand that. So yeah, I can see that. Big up WWE thing. So WWE thing, have you got anything on wrestling that you want to ask me? So I've got a bit of time, man. So yeah, guys, that's what I would say, man. The Liam Delap one for me, I think it's essential that Hoyland gets moved on for that to happen. If Hoyland doesn't get moved on, then that's where I see the Osman, and obviously the Gyökeres links. But again, I don't really want Gyökeres, if I'm honest. I think United have to be making club signings rather than signings that the manager worked with. And again, Francisco Trincão's been linked. And what makes me laugh with the Trincão thing is that Trincão's only being linked because of the 2 goals he scored against Denmark the other day. 100% that's what it is. Because if he never come off the bench and scored them 2 goals against Denmark, then there's no links to Trincão. And it just shows you that football's football's a funny game, man, because there was no links to Trincão. And all of a sudden, because he got 2 goals against Denmark, and because he plays for Sporting, apparently he's been linked to United now, and he's played under the Ruben Amorim system, which is nonsense. Man United don't need Trincão, you know what I mean? It's only because he scored 2 goals the other day. So there's other players that United can go for, regardless if they're playing this system or not. If you're an intelligent footballer, you can fit into any system, So I don't want to see no Trincão. And again, Trincão's formerly of Barcelona. People might not remember. Obviously he come from he was playing in Portugal. I can't remember the team he was at in Portugal. Was it Braga? I don't think it was. No, it wasn't Braga, I don't think. And then he went to Barcelona as a youngster. Obviously wasn't getting much game time, and then that's when he moved on to Wolves, and then moved on to Sporting. So yeah, many people might not remember, but yeah, Trincão used to be at Barcelona, and as I said, he's only being linked because he scored 2 goals the other day against Denmark. So the fact that there's been links there is nonsense. Yeah, big up WWE thing. Big up Gamer every time, bro. Big up for coming on. So yeah, guys, that's my take on the Arsenal Fulham games today. Wolves and West Ham, Forest and Man United, and the Gyökeres situation as well. So yeah, but yeah, guys, I'm gonna if anyone's got any other questions for me before I wrap. Obviously, I've been going for 45 minutes, so if anyone's got any other questions, I'll be on for another couple of minutes. Yeah, big up Gamer. Yeah, matches on today, bro. There's 3 games today. United and Forest are the later game. I've said for me, I think that Arsenal Fulham ends a 1-1 draw. I think a lot of it depends on how Fulham set up today, because as I mentioned earlier, if Mikel Merino is going to be playing as a striker, and I think if Fulham play 3 at the back of Diop, Bassi and Anderson, I think that'll work against them, because Marino's not going to threaten him behind, and you've got Bassi and Joachim Anderson that can deal with him aerially as well. So I think they would need to play 4 at the back and then play a number 10. If I'm them, I'm matching Arsenal's system. you know, and just go in for the game. And again, if they play free at the back, they might use Adama Traore's pace on the counter. But I think they need to play with a number 10, whether it be Smith Rowe or Andreas Pereira, and then go after Arsenal. I think if they sit back with the three at the back, they're going to invite pressure. And that's when I think they might come unstuck. So, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Wolves, West Ham, I've gone for a 2-2. You know, obviously Cunha's not playing. But I think West Ham have the quality in terms... Well, they have the quality in terms of Paqueta and Kudus and Bowen as well, and his energy. So I think that they will definitely score. But Wolves at home, I think, can score some goals as well, even though without Cunha. So I've gone for a 2-2 draw there. And I said, yeah, Nottingham Forest for me. I said yesterday 2-1 Forest. I did slightly change, but I'm going to stick with what I'm saying. I think it can be 1-0 or 2-1. But obviously the news coming out yesterday was, and today, that I think Morgan Gibbs-White is out as well. So Gibbs White and Chris Wood, obviously their top goal scorer and their most creative player, both of them are not playing. So it depends how Forest set up, because I think if Forest play Awoniyi up there, then Awoniyi again can threaten him behind with his pace and aerially as well. So, you know, obviously Chris Wood scores goals, so they'll be losing that in Chris Wood. But in terms of the physical attributes that Awoniyi has, he can match that with what Chris Wood has, and obviously he's quicker than Chris Wood as well. So that could work. But in terms of their midfield, it's whether they play three in midfield that are more dynamic in a sense, and then losing a bit of Gibbs White's creativity, because Gibbs White as well does work in that midfield, but I think they might set up a bit more cautious in terms of having legs in that area of the pitch, and again it'll be 3 against 2 in there, so because you're expecting Ugarte and Bruno to play in that position. So if they got 3 in there, you know, it could overwhelm United in a sense. But yeah, and I think their defense as well, for me, their defense is solid. As I said, I think they've got the 3rd best defense in the league, and it's funny that the top 3 are the 3 that have the best defenses in Van Dijk, well, centre back pairing, should I say, in Van Dijk and Konate, Saliba, Gabriel, and Murillo and Milenkovic. So I think if they can get the first goal, Forest, I do see their defense holding out, as well as their energetic midfield as well. Again, Ola Aina at right back's a very good right back. You know, he's arguably been one of the best right backs in the league this season. I think he's very underrated. You know, Nico Williams at left back has been decent as well. So yeah, I do think a lot of it depends on how Forest because them 2 players in Gibbs White and Wood are a big part of their team. I expect Elanga and Hudson-Odoi to play on the flanks. And again, both of them, I believe, will cause problems. But I think the fact that Dorgu's back now with his pace, he can help out Mazraoui against Elanga over there. And the same, Dallo can help out. I think the Lick might play there. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Euro plays there, because Euro will have the pace to deal with Hudson-Odoi. But I think Maguire will play. I think Maguire will play because of his aerial ability, which means that the Lick will play on the right side of the 3. I think that's what he's going to do. But if he was to keep the same back 3 of the Licks, obviously Heaven's out injured, but play Mazraoui over there and then play Lenny Yoro, then that'll be interesting. But I think he's going to play Maguire, and play Maguire in the middle of the back 3, and then have Mazraoui and the Licks either side. You know, so there's going to be some good matchups. But as I said, United for me are not convincing as a team, and I think Forest going for Champions League. You know, as I said, in a buoyant mood after the FA Cup penalty shootout win over Brighton. I think they'll nick it 2-1 or 1-0. So I'm going to go for that. But yeah, bro, big up. Should go through some of your messages. So Gamer says, do you have to finish top 4, top 5 to qualify for Champions? So it's top 5 gets Champions League. You know, United could have a situation. I from what I heard the other day, they could have. Is it a case they could have 6 teams in the Champions League? If I heard that right, because they're definitely getting 5 because of the I think it's the coefficients of how they've been doing in Europe. So I think it's definitely 5. But I think if Chelsea was to win, I think if Chelsea, yeah, because I think Newcastle, because they won the, oh no, it's Carabao, sorry. I think if Chelsea win the Conference League, that means they automatically go into Europa. But then if Chelsea finish in the Champions League places, then I think a place goes to another team. I mean, that'll be something to check out. I can't remember, but I think England could have possibly 6 teams in Champions League next season. Because if United was to win Europa, yeah. So if United got 5 teams anyway, yeah. So if United was to win Europa, they're in Champions League. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you've got Liverpool, you've got Arsenal, you've got Forest and Man City, for argument's sake. That's 4 teams, yeah. And then who's the other team? And let's say who else is in the top and let's say Chelsea, for instance, are in the, let's say they finish in the top 5. So I think the 5 teams go Champions League. So let's say the five teams go in there. Are Newcastle 5th now then? Okay, so well, let's say Newcastle, yeah. Let's say Newcastle, City, and again, I don't believe this is how the order ends up, but let's say for argument's sake now, Newcastle, City, Forest, Arsenal, and Liverpool. That's 5 teams are all in Champions League. I think so. If Man United win the Europa, they automatically go into Champions League. So that makes 6 teams already, yeah? Then if Chelsea win the Conference League, they automatically go into Europa. But I think there's something in there where if Chelsea was to finish 5th and they're in the Champions League and they win the Conference League, I believe that another team could get into Champions League that way. I could be wrong, but but England could have 6 representatives, because if United win Europa, obviously they're in Champions League. If Chelsea finish in the Champions League places, obviously they're in there, and then win Conference League. But yeah, I think you have to check it out, man. But I think there's something in there where England could have 6 teams or a bit more. Yeah. So it's going to be mad. It's going to be mad. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to the end of the season for sure, man. But yeah, bro, big up for coming on again, as always. Guys, big up yourselves for coming on. As I said, make sure you've subscribed to my channel or smash that like button. And guys, as well, I'm looking to if anyone's up for it, I'm looking to do well, if anyone wants to do a stream, where you come on camera, obviously show your face, and we have some dialogue on camera, man. If you're up for that, as I said, man, it's I appreciate you guys coming into the chat, and if you're ever up for a discussion on anything football, it can be your own team, then, as I said, yeah, by all means, man, let me know. And yeah, if you want to put that, obviously, if you want to put your link, whether it's, I don't know, your social media link or your email address, again, we can organize a stream one day if you're free. Make sure you put that in the comments after the chat, or you can DM me, whatever's easier. And as I said, man, it'd be good to have some talk around anything football related. You can ask me any questions about football, and yeah, obviously, if you're up for that, then let me know. But yeah, appreciate you guys every time for coming on. As I said, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to be back, guys, after the Man United game tonight. So the Man United game kicks off at 8 p.m. So I will be going live to react to the game. Hopefully United can get the win, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, if you guys are about, make sure you tune in, and I'm going to catch you guys straight after the game. Take it easy.